Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Radio Cardiff. This is me, Dawn Bates, your host, and I have a special guest in the audience today. Her name is Lara Latcham.
Hello, hello.
Oh, hang on, I need to put your mic on. I forgot to put your mic on.
Good morning.
That's better. And we also have a guest that's just knocked at the door. Hello.
Hello. Melinda.
Hi, Melinda. We have a new guest in the studio today, so bear with me a second. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop a song on, but do come and take a seat, and we'll get this sorted out. So today we've got Lara in the studio with her novel Estella. Now, this is a book that is really going to, put it this way: I could not put it down, and even when I was in Stansted Airport reviewing the manuscript, I was like, okay, I really need to put my laptop away and go to the gate. Actually, no, I'm not putting the laptop away. And I just carried on reading it through Stansted Airport, making sure, obviously, I wasn't bumping into anybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow Lara to introduce herself. And while she does that, I'm going to have a quick chat with Melinda, if that's okay. Off you go.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, Lara.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Lara Latcham. I've worked in education much of my life, and I grew up in a bookshop. My parents had a bookshop in Cardiff, and I started reading novels when I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I've been reading them ever since. And it was a great thing that I really wanted to get a novel published. I really wanted a novel out there with my name on it. And over the years, I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and it was rubbish. It was all rubbish. And then all of a sudden, in 2025, something just clicked. It was Christmas time. I suddenly sat down and thought, I know exactly what I want to talk about. I know exactly what I want to write about. And what happened was, over 12 weeks, Estella appeared. And so the whole novel was written in about 12 weeks. And it's the story of a woman who has reached a kind of crisis point in her life and is not sure how she's going to move on from that point. So we start with a lady who is quite lost, really, a bit mixed up, not sure what she wants to do, and also not entirely self-aware. And then all of a sudden something happens that makes everything really crystal clear to her. And then we see a total transformation. And some of that transformation is easy and some of that transformation is a bit more difficult. So, as I say, 12 weeks to write the whole thing. And, Dawn, what was your first impression of Estella when you read it the first time? You couldn't put it down, but I know that there were certain aspects of it that meant more to you than others.
Well, I think, given that, as you were just saying, that this is a woman who's finding herself, rediscovering herself, using different elements of herself. And as I said to you before we got on here, there was so much I wanted to talk to you about today with this book, because this book is as multifaceted as Estella.
And I suppose that's the first thing to explain, is that Estella is multifaceted. So Estella has within herself 7 different versions of herself. So I have this theory.
She's lucky she's only got 7.
Well, by the end, you know.
Wow.
So I have this theory that all of us have. Several different versions of ourselves within ourselves, and those versions come from kind of critical moments in our lives. And so we hit a particular crisis, and that particular moment in our lives, we get frozen in that moment because we have to transform, because something happens,
we have to make
and
that
in
choice.
order to be able to move on, we have to reinvent ourselves and move on to be somebody else.
And don't we know about that?
So that person that we left behind, actually we haven't left them behind.
Yeah.
They're still there. So in Estella, she's got these 7 different versions of herself, and the first version is she's 7 years old.
Yeah.
And the 7-year-old version is the version just before she realised that her parents didn't love her unconditionally, that actually her parents only really loved her when she was doing what they wanted her to do.
And how many of us know that?
And fulfilling the things that they wanted for her.
Can I stop you there? Because I think that's a really important thing for us to acknowledge for a lot of people, because we have there's so many people that they have a very blessed environment where it doesn't matter what they do, their parents are always there. They can mess up as many times as they like, and the parents are there, they're forgiving, they're guiding, they're supportive, they're encouraging, and all of the jazz. Then you've got the parents that they're not there. They're just not there at all. Whether that is they're not there physically, or they're not there mentally or emotionally. And then you've got the parents that, they are there, but you have to fulfill a certain set of criteria. i.e., I'm a doctor, you're going to be a doctor because your grandfather was a doctor and your great-grandfather was a doctor. Yeah. You're going to be a doctor, and every male firstborn is going to be a doctor.
No, completely. But I think that one of the things that I'd like to say about that, though, is that most parents, I would think 99% of parents, do the absolute best that they can do.
Given what
but we have to remember what baggage they're coming with. So, with my situation, for example, my parents were incredibly loving and incredibly supportive when they could be, but their love was always very conditional because they only knew what conditional love was. Neither of them had been loved unconditionally. Neither of them had really fulfilled the desires of their families, etc. So you can
only give what you've been taught,
and nobody
really
knows how to be a parent.
No,
you learn how to be a parent once your child arrives.
Yeah.
So I think, although I think it's really important for us to acknowledge damage that is done to us during our childhood. And anything that has happened within our family that has damaged us in some way, whilst I think it's really important that we accept and we deal with that damage, this isn't about blame.
No.
Because everybody, generally speaking, everybody is doing the absolute best that they can. And it's just that sometimes we're not getting what we need. And because we're children, we're not particularly good at expressing what it is that we need. And that's really the issue. So with Estella, her issue is that she doesn't get loved the way that she wants to be loved. She doesn't fulfill the requirements of her parents, and therefore at 7 years old she freezes in a moment where she still feels like she's being loved by her parents. And then she moves on into another iteration of herself, which is Stell, which is the feisty teenager.
Oh, we love a feisty teenager. I'm only saying that because I think I was one. In fact, probably not think. I probably know. I know I was a feisty teenager. And I think this is the thing, though, isn't it, Lara, that so many people, they don't move on beyond that 7-year-old. Because stuff will
that
go.
7-year-old travels with them.
Yeah, what I'm trying to.
And they keep going back to that 7-year-old, and they keep going back to how they felt as a 7-year-old, rather than moving on from where they felt as a 7-year-old.
Where I was going with that is that there are certain people that they do freeze in that time, because when they get into their teenage years, they have such a terrible time of it that, I mean, I speak to my boys, and sometimes they say to me, no, I don't remember that, and I'm like, how do you not remember that? I have photographic evidence of that. And it's not only when we start speaking together that and I know that a part of that is because of what happened with us in Scotland, and living out in Egypt. They remember being in Egypt, they remember being in Scotland, but because living through the Egyptian uprising was quite horrendous for a lot of us, and then going through the court case that I've written about in Crossing the Line, that was horrendous. They were taken away from me just because a police officer didn't like the fact I spoke to them in Arabic, and whatever other reasons he had going on. And so these are the things that I can relate to. But when we look at certain adults that are running businesses or running the country, let's say, a lot of them are making decisions from that much younger version. And this is one of the things that I liked about what you explored within Estella, because I know that you were saying that she's got all of these different ages where those moments freeze her in time, you know, in her teens, in her 20s, and in her 30s, and so on. And those are the moments that she anchors herself with certain levels of either courage or sass or wildness or
sensibleness.
Being sensible. Now, you'll notice I actually paused there before I said that word. Dawn and sensible don't really get together very often.
But there's a really important reason why the first one is the 7-year-old, because essentially there are lots of psychologists who will say that actually we never become anything different from what we were when we were 7 years old. So we can dress it up and we can behave in different ways, but essentially it all comes back to how we felt when we were 7 years old.
Yeah, climbing trees.
So yeah, for me at 7 years of age, and this is one of the things that I've explored in Estella, is I think my mental health began to deteriorate when I was about 7 years old.
Okay.
And because I did realise that I frustrated my parents. My parents did nothing to hide how frustrated they were about me.
Okay.
And it was really to do with education at that point, because I'm dyslexic, but I only found out that I was dyslexic when I was 40 years old.
Can I just stop you there as well? Because I get so many people say, oh, I don't read because I'm dyslexic. To all of those people that say, I don't read because I'm dyslexic, Lara has just admitted on air that she's dyslexic, and she's written a book. She is one of the most prolific readers I know. Okay, we read different books. Like, Lara reads a lot.
But I read very, very slowly.
It
takes a long time for me to. I mean, I go on holiday with a friend sometimes. We'll go for like 4 days. She'll get through 3 books. I'll get through half a book.
Yeah.
And there are times when there are days, for example, when I will be reading, and I will go, this isn't working. Today I'm not working. My dyslexia is too intense today for me to actually enjoy reading. But yeah, no, I'm always reading something.
Yeah.
I read fiction. You tend to read non-fiction. But you know, it's just.
I am going, as you know, I'm going away to the south of France with a friend for her 60th birthday. We're only going for 10 days, folks. I have 2 fiction books I'm taking with me.
I shall convert you to fiction. I will convert you to fiction.
I do read a lot of fiction. I do read a lot of fiction. And but the problem is the fiction that I read tends to be very similar to the non-fiction that I'm researching material for my books.
No, completely. I get that. And I realise that there is a place in the world for non-fiction.
Yeah, there is most definitely a place in the world for non-fiction.
I completely understand that. It's I like getting lost in a story.
Yeah. I like getting lost down the wormholes. I'm not going to call them rabbit holes anymore because I like the wormholes. I really do. It's like, yay, let's go down there and let's just grab that Hessian map for a helter skelter and just go, woo! I'm going to just take a break there from chit-chatting, because one thing you all know, if you know me and Lara, and I know if Tracy is listening, Tracy, we love you, she will go, oh my God, these two, are they going to get everything packed into 2 hours? No, absolutely we're not. But we're going to do
we love you.
Yeah, we're going to do our absolute best. But we were choosing some songs, and we've been back and forth while I've been throwing the stick for Chewy in the garden since Monday, choosing the songs for the show. And one of the ones that we're going to play is by a young lady called Inga Rose. And this is Treat Me Gently. Now, we all know how great I am at this music. Oh, do you know, there's been another update by Google on my phone. I think it's Google. It might just be Samsung. But that Gemini thing turns up on my phone once more. Gemini, I do not want you on my phone. Will you please go away? I'm not even a Gemini. I'm a Sagittarian. Okay? Just not the right star sign. So let's just... Oh, what is it doing? So I'm just going to play this. Treat Me Gently. Well, I am going to try and play this. Treat Me Gently. What's it done? Oh, my Lord. Do you know, ladies and gentlemen, Gemini can do one. I'm going to put the song on. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I found that song whilst listening to a Joy Roads playlist on Spotify, and I was like, take a breath, rewind, listen again, because it's not always about others treating you gently. It's about you treating yourself gently. But as Lara was saying beforehand, it's about understanding your parents gently, because they're only coming into this parenting role with the tools that they have been given, or that they have had the consciousness to actually learn about. Now, I know that I'm a bit of a weirdo. The fact that, you know, when I'm asked what do I want to be when I'm old, when I go, I want to be a mum, so I'm going to do child development. I know not everybody does that. I know that. Most people do child development because they want to become a child psychologist. But isn't that really what parents are? Perhaps you disagree. But if you do disagree, or if you even agree, or you want to ask Lara a question, you can text in the show on 07354 770 837. If you're texting or messaging from abroad, that is +44 7354 770 837. We'd love to hear you. Now, I'm going to touch on and take it a little bit further, Lara, because before we were talking about, you know, these times when our parents are unconditional, or conditional with their love, and, you know, making sure that we're behaving in a way that they want us to, etc.
Well, not necessarily behaving in a way that they want us to.
Or they need us to.
They need us to, or they think society wants us to.
Oh, that's a biggie.
So I really feel sorry for parents, you know, who are out and about with young children, and then the young child has a tantrum, or what we refer to as a tantrum. I would say an emotional wave, and people frown at them because their child is throwing themselves on the floor, but really judgy. And the thing is, you just don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on with the kid. You don't know what's going on with the parent. You have no idea what the context of any of this is. But then you just get people frowning at them, kind of going, "Well, I wouldn't let my child do that." So I think there's a lot that puts a lot of pressure on parents. And then I've noticed in myself that when you see a parent allowing their child to have a tantrum and just letting them get on with it, in other words, letting them see out the emotional wave, I actually feel in myself kind of going, oh, well, you know, really is that acceptable? Yes, it is acceptable, but I'm conditioned, and what I'm trying to do is work against the conditioning that I've had to say that, you know, children shouldn't have tantrums or emotional waves in the street. So I think this is one of the things that people struggle with most in life, is the conditioning that they have been given, and trying to override the conditioning that they've been given.
Okay, you can't see my face. Lara can, and she's like, Dawn wants to say something, and I really, really do. I'm listening to everything she's saying. I am being present. But when I see a child do that, I'm at that point, and I did it with my boys as well. I'm like, just let it out, just get it out. And I'm like,
well, half the time I just want to get down on the floor with them and do the same thing, and just let it all out.
Oh my God, I bet that felt good. You know, and sometimes I'm just going to lie down with you.
Yeah, no, totally.
And then because I would just lie down with them, that kind of takes them by surprise. But they felt supported.
Yeah, but don't steal their thunder, Dawn.
Oh, I wasn't going to steal their thunder. I was just going to lie there and look at the clouds and see what pictures I can find. But I think because I got down on the floor with them, thankfully it didn't happen to me very often. My boys are so laid back. They're almost upside down and back to front. But I think it's because I dealt with it in the beginning to the point where, like, if they did, Nasa would throw the tantrum. Khalid not so much. And Lara's met Khalid. She can probably nod and agree. Yeah, I could probably see that about Khalid, actually.
No, totally laid back. Totally.
But Nasa, he's like, rawr. And I remember once and I was like, "Oh, just carry on. I'm just going to go sit over here and read my book. When you're done, come over to me." And you could see he was just like, what? Because he knew it wasn't getting me. And I think I do feel so grateful that I had learnt those mechanisms through studying child development at school.
But this is something that Estella has to deal with in the book, is that because little Estella, and each of the different versions of herself have different names.
Don't we all?
And little Estella is the 7-year-old. And unfortunately, the 7-year-old sometimes just steps out and has a tantrum or rides their emotional wave. And also, she has to just sort of guard against it slightly, because at this point in the novel, she's in her late 50s, and so actually kind of like throwing yourself down on the ground and writhing around, somebody might think you're having a heart attack or a stroke or something, rather than or an epileptic fit, rather than actually
having a tantrum.
Yeah. So
wouldn't it be great though if we just could sometimes? No, seriously. No.
I think it would be great, but I think it would be better if we were allowed to do it as children and felt less like we needed to do it when we got to be adults.
I think I don't
it
know
could
about
be a bit anarchic.
It could. I was talking to a friend of mine, Renelle, who's in Australia. And she's been posting a bit like those of us who went out raving back in the day. Like, we regulated our nervous system by thrashing it out on the dance floor. And when you listen to a lot of rave music, the frequency that is put out at, and that you're in this room. And yes, some people might be away with the fairies and a few funny fairies. But when you're in that hive of dancing and that frequency where you're all there,
and
even now we're calling it somatic dancing.
Yeah, but not just rave music though. I mean, if I think about my teenage years, my greatest joy was just to get out on the dance floor and let it out.
What did you dance to, Laura?
So I'm an 80s girl. So
did you have pink glowing wristbands and leg warmers?
Not so much. I was more of a mod. I was like black and white and and that kind of stuff. But I used to love Adam and the Ants, because it's a whole story, so you could dance the whole story out. I used to love Orange Juice.
Never heard of them.
So well.
I mean, I drink it. But
Living on the Ceiling. It's very. It's an
I know
amazing
Dancing
song to
on
dance
the Ceiling.
Duran.
I've heard of them. I wouldn't know one. But see, this is the thing. I'm that person that I know that some of the names.
Yeah, but there's a decade between us.
It doesn't feel it. Come on. But I want to just go back to the book again, because
absolutely.
I mean, I've got my sticky notes again, and those of you who are, those of you who know me, you'll know that my books have like rainbows of sticky notes, annotations, and all of that jazz. I might be getting a guest on show. We're organising things at the moment. I'm speaking to her this week because she annotates like I've never seen before. Oh my goodness. She's worse than Johnny with his margins on Dirty Dancing, ladies and gentlemen. But there's a point in the book, and it's right near the beginning in the chapter Half Term, right at the beginning on page 18, where, and this is where like the teaching comes in for a lot of us, that we don't have that solid home environment where we can just feel those waves of emotions.
And Estella, we should make clear, is at the beginning of the book is a teacher.
Yes.
And she's working with 16 to 18-year-olds teaching Spanish.
Don't you love having the author in the studio? Okay. On the last Friday going into February half term, she is half mad with longing for the break. She spends the day getting her classes to play games in Spanish and rewarding the students that actually use Spanish with chocolates. Millie asks her if she has watched Oscar Loves, and she thanks her for the recommendation and says that she's enjoying it. But it's all a bit too beautiful. Yeah, says Millie. Makes you feel quite like inadequate. Imagine how much later we'd all be for college if we had to get ourselves looking like that every day. They laugh. Miss feels old and wonders when she stopped worrying about putting on mascara and eyeliner. Now, I have to say, this really got me, because the extent of my makeup is eyeliner and mascara with possibly a little bit of lip gloss or lip balm. That's your lot, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes, like blusher, I don't think I've ever been acquainted with that friend.
I don't think either you nor I need blusher because we tend to have quite rosy cheeks anyway.
Ruddy girls.
I think it's really, really interesting because I actually work in a sixth form college, and I have the privilege of looking after the pastoral care of 16 to 18-year-olds. And I am absolutely amazed by how much makeup young women wear.
I find it scary.
Even back in the day when I was younger, I've never worn foundation or eyeshadow or... Actually, no, I have worn eyeshadow in the past.
I was going to say, if you were a mod, you were
when I was a mod.
Yeah.
Although that was mostly lots of kohl around the eyes.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, these girls have to get up. They've got to straighten their hair and they've got to put their makeup on. And I think it's to do with the pressure of social media.
Okay, well, we're going to stop there because it's time for the ads.
Okay.
And then we're going to come back on to the makeup issue with social media.
Okey-dokey.
1 second. Let's go. Right, so 2 things in that ad that I'm going to bring up. Drugs and language. So we're going to drop that idea in. But I want to finish this thing with the makeup because sometimes I see these young girls, they've got more makeup on in a day than I've probably used in my whole 48 years. And I said to my sons, I said, what do you think to it? Because it must be quite... I mean, if a chap has gone to bed with a woman and he's never seen her without makeup on and then he wakes up to her without makeup on, it'd be like waking up to a completely different... Because they contour their face, they put all of these different shapes on, they thin out their...
Yeah, but
and then they've got these caterpillars on their eyelids.
I have to say, though, that what I take from it is how are they feeling that makes them feel that they need it.
Yeah.
And some of it, I think, is pressure. Pressure to look a certain way because of
that's what I mean about all the contouring
because of curated social media, making everybody look perfect. But then also, I think it's about protection. I think it's about fear. Yeah. It's about fear. It's about keeping yourself protected. It's about not showing who you really are. And I worry about it, and it's something that I've been looking at actually in the thing that I'm working on at the moment, looking at that, because I'm fascinated by young people. Young people are so important because they're our future, and I think trying to understand and trying to support them to have the best future that they can is probably the most important thing to me, which is why I work in pastoral care with 16 to 18-year-olds. So I've been investigating that, and in the thing that I'm writing at the moment, there are a number of young people, as there are in Estella, but the young people in Estella, however, are celebrities. So it's a slightly different situation.
But is it, and isn't it? Because this is the thing. One of the other things I did when I said I studied child psychology as a child development, I also did drama because I knew that I was quite shy, and I still am. I'd rather be by myself a lot of the time, and it does take me a lot to work up. It's why I like radio. It's quite cool being, I like radio and books. That I'm just, in here babbling by myself for 2 hours, and thank you to all of the tens of thousands of people that listen to me babbling away every week for 2 hours and listening to me on my YouTube, and I'm so grateful to you. But when I did drama, it was like I was putting on, we had to go through hair and makeup and through costume. And sometimes when I was in my 20s and 30s, I knew that I had to get into character. I knew that if I wanted to have a successful business, I had to step into that suit, or I had to step into, a certain way of being. And the makeup was my armour. But it never went to, one, because you don't really want me to do your hair. I'm a bit of a ponytail up or a hair down kind of gal. Makeup, like I said, don't ask me for blending and contouring, or it's not going to happen.
But I think that's we're often playing roles, aren't we?
Of course we are.
And that's why
today
in
I'm
Estella,
a radio presenter.
No, you're not. Today you're Dawn Bates is what you are. And that's what I explored in Estella, is these 7 different versions of herself, because those 7 different versions are really useful to her for different situations. She's got this 14-year-old feisty teenager who has to come out when things go wrong, because when things go wrong, she doesn't know what to do. Then
she's not regulated.
Exactly. And then she's got her 30-year-old self, who was probably the most successful, the happiest, the one who thought she was going to be happy in life. And Esther is her name. And she comes out and deals with stuff when, the present day version, who is called Miss, because she really identifies with her job more than anything else in her life. When Miss goes, I don't know what to do, Esther comes out and takes control.
I think we all need an Esther.
We all need an Esther, and we all need a Estelle.
I imagine her in something that is very high-powered, solutions-orientated corporate role. She's that project manager that's got it.
She's wearing a bodycon dress is what she's doing.
Oh, God.
Because she feels confident enough.
That's why I think, someone said to me, what do you think that bodycon is? I'm like, it's body confidence. Not body contouring, it's not. And I don't agree that it's body contouring. It's body confidence, because,
anybody who has the confidence to wear a bodycon dress is, obviously there.
We love you.
Yeah. We bow down in praise towards you. Get going.
And I have to say this, and I don't know if this young lady is listening, but last week, walking back, there was this young lady. She looked amazing. She had got this cream body play suit on, long sleeves, shorts, and black stripes with it. She looked amazing. And no, it wasn't after the show. It was after I'd been to the gym. And so there's me, walking back from the gym, hair I'm just like, I love the workout. I'd lost it in the studio to my own dance too. So thank you to all of you at Pure Gym who didn't, who didn't film me and put me on the internet, which we are going to get onto. But I just had to recognise her. It's like, oh my God, you look amazing. She was like, oh, thanks, doll. And that was it. It was the end of the engagement. She carried on and I carried on. I love that.
I noticed the first time that I met you in person.
Yes.
We were in Hereford, which is where I live, and
where Estella lives,
and where Estella lives. In fact, where all my characters live.
Build on what you know, write what you know.
Well, also Hereford. Really, people don't know enough about Hereford. It's the most amazing place. It's beautiful.
Got great cows.
Yeah, we've got great cows, but the bulls are even better. You threw me off there completely. Anyway, the first time we met for the first time in person, we were in Hereford, and you commented to this woman in the street, "You look amazing." And I do that all the time. Whenever I see a woman who's looking amazing, I always say, "You look great." It's difficult to do that with men, because they might think that you're hitting on them.
Yeah.
Although these days, I wonder sometimes if women think that I'm hitting on them. But the great thing about being as old as I am now is that with my students, I can actually say, "That's a really great outfit. You look good in that outfit." I'm able to do that because nobody is going to think that I'm hitting on them.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important. We don't give enough positive feedback to people, and we don't give people enough of our love and appreciation. So it's really nice to be able to do that.
Now, Lara just said that the students don't think that she'll be hitting on them. I have to say, I've said to my 19 and 23-year-old sons, oh my gosh, you lads of today, you've got some sass. And then they start laughing because they remember, I got hit on by like a 17-year-old. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm old enough to be your mother. No. And I have this rule, if I'm old enough to be your mother, then it's a no. It's a big fat no. And someone's like, that's very ageist. Dawn.
Well, I'd be really interested for you to read my next book.
I can't wait to read Lara's next book because, honestly, I read Estella, I've read it several times. I go back to it. And I don't normally read books over and over again. But Estella, I've read a number of times. If you'd have seen how many little legal tabs, I mean, we're going to have to move on because I do want to get through some of them because there's a few issues I want to cover with the book. Not issues, but a few sections. Now, I said that I was going to mention about the different languages and the drugs that we just heard about in the news. And we are going to play another song in a few moments. But I just wanted to read this because there's no holding back in this book. There is in certain ways, but it's done in such an elegant, such a sensitive way. And this is one of the things that I loved about the way in which Lara raised certain issues of society. And what's going on within us, what's going on around us, how we engage with other people. And there's this part on page 36, and it says there were other people there last night, vaguely familiar people. They were snorting cocaine. He made a big thing about me not touching drugs and instead handed me a drink. I pretended to be drinking it but kept going out to the courtyard and tipping it away. After about half an hour, I noticed that they were all looking at me looking at me more and more. And one of them kept asking me if I felt tired. They seemed to be waiting for me to pass out. Finally, Parker suggested that we go to a club for a bit. At the club, we kissed and danced together and he kept buying me drinks, but I managed to avoid drinking them. He was getting more and more angry, and when he kissed me, it was getting more and more aggressive. Now, this is something that raised quite a bit in me because it's like, were they putting something in the drink? And the fact that he wasn't responding to in the way that they were expecting them to.
So this is Estella meets is this young man who is a Spanish actor, and he's in a Spanish Netflix series.
This is Oscar.
His name is Oscar.
The one that Millie was talking about.
Yes.
Estella went on to meet him.
So she completely by chance meets him, and he tells her this story about what's happened to him, and she begins to realise the kind of minefield that he's working in, and the difficulty that so many celebrities have, that they're expected to do so many different things in order to be successful, and the pressure, particularly on young celebrities, to be participating in things that they don't want to be, they don't particularly want to participate in. But because this is their chosen career, he wants to be a singer, he wants to be an actor, and if he wants to continue and get the next job, he's got to be in with the right people. So he's been invited to this party thinking that he will hit it off with this man that he's met and that things will be okay between them. But in fact, he's there to be used. And the group is there specifically because they want to use him. So they're trying to spike his drinks, but they have spiked his drinks in the past and he's wise to it. And so when he doesn't succumb to it, that ends up being a really nasty situation for him. And because I didn't know you before I sent you the manuscript, I didn't know how this resonated with you and with your life story. And then shortly after we met, I read Moama, and I was like, oh my God, this must have been so many triggers for Dawn in reading this story.
It was, but again, it was the way you've written it that it was like, hang on a second, is she talking about what I think she's talking about here? And then you reading it, and then you're in with Estella and all of her different versions of self, which, really, they... Honestly, like, I'm not just saying, those of you who know me know and have been listening, you know that I say what I think. Obviously, I sometimes have to apologise to Ofcom because, I do really say what I think within reason. But when you're reading through the book, there is this soothing energy. Now, you're listening to Lara. You can hear the softness in her voice. You can hear the calmness in her energy. This is what it sounds like in the book when you're reading it. You have got this soothing voice and this calming energy all the way through, even when things are getting a bit like, oh my gosh, she really is talking about that. And then you're talking about, and then the thing that I love is where you flip into the language, and that really resonated with me. Like, so they'll be speaking English, then they'll be speaking Spanish.
Yeah, so there are a couple of characters in the book who are Spanish speakers, native Spanish speakers. So
muy bueno.
So first of all, we start off with the fact that she's a Spanish teacher, and that's why her students suggest that she watches Oscar Loves, which is the Netflix series that Oscar, not only is his name Oscar in real life, but he's also an Oscar.
I did wonder if it was a reality show.
No, it's not a reality show. It is a Netflix series. So it's a Netflix series based on the idea of Heartstopper and also Young Royals. So it's the Spanish version of Heartstopper and Young Royals. And so Oscar is actually... he lives in Spain. He's a Spaniard. However, he was born in Mexico. And then there's another star who we meet in the book who's called Santi Faber. And Santi Faber is actually living in Holland, and he's an actor and a singer. But he's originally from Colombia. So she has this ability to sit down with these people and have a conversation that will just bounce backwards and forwards from Spanish to English and back again. And language is one of the things that absolutely fascinates me. So at the moment, I'm planning for a trip to Seoul, South Korea. And so I'm in the process of learning Korean so that I can say a few things. And also because I'm totally BTS army. I'm just a huge fan of BTS, and they've just come back from the military. So yeah.
Okay, so I have to share this with you, and I woke up the other week, and I went into the lounge, and Khalid was sat there working away, and I went, I'm going to South Korea. And he goes, what? I went, I'm going to Korea. No, I just said I'm going to Korea, not South Korea. And he just looked at me and goes, when? not like, really? But just like, when? And I'm like, yeah. Well, I'm going for Sojourn, or I've got to write a book called Sojourn. And he goes, okay. This is the relationship I have with my boys. I'll say I'm going to do something, or I'm going somewhere and I've got to do something. And they just say, okay, because they're so used to me just doing it. So now, and I did not know that you were...
No, we hadn't talked about this.
We haven't talked about this.
No, we hadn't talked about this.
What I'm going to do is, the fact that we both love languages, I'm actually going to play a song now it's called We Are Bulletproof.
The Eternal. So just for any BTS fans out there, there are various versions of We Are Bulletproof.
Could you explain what BTS is?
Bangtan Sonyeongdang.
Okay.
So it's BTS. It's a South Korean group. They're kind of thought of as K-pop. They're not really K-pop. They are a kind of a genre of their own, really. They're a lovely group of 7 young people who have a wonderful message about loving yourself and also respecting yourself. And they are there. They're just there doing nice things and amazing stage
She's
performance.
She's really down with them, isn't she?
Amazing stage performance. And this is one of my favourite songs of theirs because this is how much they love their fans.
Oh, I don't even know who they are, but I like them already. I'm going to play. So this is The Eternal. We Are Bulletproof. Right then, so there you go. Like, it's not the kind of normal music that you'd be listening to on the Literary Lounge, but obviously, as you know, I like my guests to share their music and why they chose it. So we were just discussing while that was playing. I was like, I don't really know much about Korea. I know food, which will be no surprise to a lot of people.
I think it's really interesting because when I discovered BTS, which I'm quite new as a fan, I discovered them whilst they were on their military service. So I've only really known about them for a couple of years. When I discovered them, the reason why I got into them immediately was the fact that they do a reality show called Run BTS, which is hilariously funny. And if I was coming home from work feeling, a little bit burdened by everything that I've been listening to during the day, doing my pastoral work with the young people, it would just lift my mood immediately.
Okay.
So there's 7 people who know each other really well. They're really kind. They're really funny. They're really interesting. And then I thought, well, I don't really know anything about Korea. Do you know what? I lived in China for 3 years. I had no idea how close Korea was.
Really?
I don't think it ever occurred to me how close Korea was. I thought about Japan being quite close, Taiwan being quite close. Never thought about
Cambodia?
About Korea at all.
Or Vietnam?
Well, yes, I know. But I was so focused on the fact that I lived in China, and China is so huge, it was absorbing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's just overwhelming.
so I then started looking into to Korea, and my challenge this year, last year's challenge was to write Estella. This year's challenge was to learn a bit of Korean, because I thought it would be interesting to learn to read something that is not, Roman alphabet. And I started watching K-dramas and Korean films. I got into...
Have you watched Physical... Well, you probably... I love Physical 100, which is Korean, and Chef 100. Oh, my God.
Oh, reality shows?
No, these, Chef 100 is you get 100 chefs from across Korea.
Yeah.
Whether they're the school chefs, whether they're home chefs. They've started like a pop-up shop, or whether they're Michelin, and then they have to fight each other and get down to the last. And then they do the Michelin ones are all in the white jackets.
A bit like my reading habits. I don't like watching documentaries. I don't like watching reality TV.
Physical 100.
I like to escape completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first Korean drama that I watched was one called Crash Landing on You, about a woman from South Korea who goes paragliding, and unfortunately, due to the weather circumstances, falls into North Korea, and she's picked up by some soldiers in North Korea who realise that she will disappear into the system if they give her to the authorities. And so they try to hide her and get her back to South Korea. And it was the most absorbing thing I'd ever watched. And the chemistry between the lead female and male was extraordinary. I then later found out they were married to each other.
And it was it's all kicking off in Korea.
It was amazing, absolutely amazing. Anyway,
so we're going to go into the news and weather. God, blimey. North Korea, South Korea, let's see if they appear on the news. I have to share this because every time I hear that trip advert and that boy goes, "Yes, Mum," I'm like, oh, it doesn't sound realistic. Normally it's like, yeah. Yeah, let's go. Or, yes, let's go. But not, yes, Mum. Ad writers, fascinating. I used to be one. That's why I'm laughing. Okay, so I want to go back into the book, and we're in the final hour, and I still have lots of legal tabs to get through, and we've still got a few tunes. I've got to get some tunes in. I just need some music, and I want to talk to Laura about other stuff behind when the mics are off. So we're going to go into part 2 of the book now, where it gets really obviously it's a book, the middle bit, you want to be right at that peak, the Story Mountain, those of us who know about the Story Mountains. But this is where Miss takes the reins. That's what part 2 is called, and where she starts to have control over her life. And it starts off, I'm going to read the first paragraph on page 107. And then I'm going to ask Lara to explain the artichokes a little bit in a bit. You'll know what I mean in a second. So here we go. In fact, actually, I'd quite like Lara to read this, actually. So page 107, please.
Page 107?
Yeah, we've both got our copies. Because Lara, I want you to hear Lara's voice. Oh, my God. When she reads to you, you're just like, oh, you just don't want her to stop.
Okay. First paragraph, was it?
First paragraph, please.
Monday morning. While Estella is sleeping, the internet is at work. While Estella stumbles sleepily and trips on her way to the bathroom, banging her head on the landing banister, posts are being made, shared, turned into memes and reshared. While she shuffles on her bottom down the stairs to put food out for the cats and takes out a chunk of her leg on a protruding nail, rumours are circulating and theories being put forward as facts. When the others try to berate her and break through to wake her up, she presses brutally at the cut on her arm to make them back off. While she staggers, one eye swollen closed from the banister incident, back upstairs, losing her footing and falling to the bottom in a heap of bruises, Oscar is trying to reach her on the telephone that ran out of battery long ago. When she finally manages to get back up to the bed and chugs the last of the wine and the sleeping tablets, Oscar has left Madrid and is on his way to London. It's the small hours of Monday.
Okay, so this was just like, oh my God. I kind of knew what was happening. I knew what was coming, but I really had not put that into... I didn't want to project. I suspected.
So Estella goes to London. She just goes to London for the day, and she bumps into Oscar completely by chance. And what we should probably say at this point is that Estella is a highly sensitive person. So there's such a thing as HSPs, highly sensitive people. And that means that she can actually feel other people's emotions as well as her own. And she sees Oscar in a cafe, and she realises that something is terribly wrong. And because she can speak Spanish and because she's used to working with young people, she goes over and she says, hi, is everything okay? And it means that she meets him, and he needs somebody to talk to, so he talks to her. He then introduces her to his friends. These are famous people. He invites her to a party. She's suddenly, her boring life has become very, very interesting.
She's swept up in the moment.
And she gets swept up in the moment. And she just naively goes along with it all, loves the time that she's having. But unbeknownst to her, there's lots of people filming her, taking photographs of her with these people. And one of the things that they do is that Santi Faber, who is this singer, he's going to do a little gig at a nightclub that helped him out in his last tour. He goes and sings a couple of songs there, and she's dancing with the young people that she's just met. And all of this gets posted on the internet. And she has no idea because she doesn't actually do social media, so she's got no idea about it. She has this wonderful couple of days in London. She gets back to Hereford, and one of her students stops her in the street, well, actually in a restaurant, stops her in a restaurant, and says, Miss, so I didn't know that you knew Oscar. I didn't know you knew all of those people. They're all celebrities. And she's like, no, well, I just met them. Well, the internet says that you're going out with Oscar. And all of a sudden she's like, what?
Yeah.
And of course she gets suspended from work because she's a teacher, and she's been
going on a night out.
She's been she's gone on this night out, and some of these people that she was on this night out with were only 21, so it's really
scandalous.
It's totally scandalous. Anyway, so her world implodes basically. And she starts to not trust the other selves. She starts to feel that she can't trust their judgment. And so Miss says, I'm going to take control. I'm going to make the decisions from now on. And she keeps pushing them back. And sometimes the only way to push them back and to keep them back is to cause pain to herself.
Yeah, and I know that some people, they'll either cause pain or they'll numb the pain, but a lot of the time causing the pain is numbing the pain. And I wrote about this actually in Pandora, because Pandora, it's the third book in the Sacral series. I haven't spoken to you about the Sacral series at all, to those of you who are listening. And one of the things that Pandora does is she's just walking through that nature, and she sees this lake, and she just wants to feel cold. And so she gets in the lake and she submerges herself under the water. She doesn't do it because she wants to kill herself. She just wants to feel cold. And when she gets in, the cold of the water numbs her body. And being under the water silences all the voices. Now, those of us who have ever submerged ourselves in the bathtub, and just to listen to our heartbeat, it's just, I love that, doing that. So I really resonated with that, where she just wants to numb the pain, although I've never self-harmed in the way that...
This is the thing, that there are good ways of doing it, like using water, for example, which is such a purifier. Water is so good at taking away our anxiety and taking away our problems. But there are unhealthy ways of doing it. And self-harm is one of those things that I wanted to talk about in this book, because
and it's so important,
because I think that people don't talk enough about it, particularly they don't talk to young people enough about it, because I work in pastoral care with 16 to 18-year-olds, so therefore I'm aware of it happening. But I was, I think, 18 years old the first time that I self-harmed. And over the years there have been various times when I have done it, because it was the only way to do what you described, shut the voices up, that voice inside your head, the thing that just goes on and on and on and on. But also in my case, other people's voices, because I'm also a highly sensitive person, which is why Estella is written as a highly sensitive person. So I can be in a room of people and I can be aware of what's going on with 5, 6, 7 people all at the same time, and I just sometimes need to shut that out. And before I found healthy ways of doing that, self-harm was one of the ways that I would do that.
I've been, because I wear a lot of bangles and bracelets, and I actually had someone, it was quite interesting because I could see what they were doing, because they know that I like to, I do like a lot of alone time. I love my alone time. But they got hold of the I've got a, what would you call this?
A cuff.
I've got a cuff. It's like proper Celtic silver clay. Like, you try and take it off, it's really heavy, and it was made for me by friend of mine, and she burnt lots of waves in it, but someone I could see, she was just turning it around just to see whether, and she turned my arm over just to see whether she could see some cuts on my wrists, and then she looked at me, and I was like, yeah, you won't find any, because it was something that I'd seen others do. And yes, I went out raving and did, live the hedonistic life, so I was numbing pain with the drugs, but not really aware that I was doing that, because once you do it once and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Not that I'm condoning taking drugs, ladies and gentlemen, or Ofcom, but there are so many ways people do it. I mean, I had bulimia, and I know that others, that they have anorexia. Like, we'll either do it through over exercising, we'll do it through
we're all addicted to something.
All addicted to something.
The addiction is generally something that we do because it numbs the pain. So eating is my thing. I eat too much because eating just stuffs down all the negative emotions and stops me from thinking the negative emotions. And I have to I really know that something is wrong. If I start eating irrationally, then I know that there's something I'm not dealing with, and I need to do something about it. So with Estella in the book, she actually, at one point, Oscar is quite disgusted by the fact that she has self-harmed. Yeah. And he's easily disgusted. He's somebody who finds the mechanics of life, all of the mundane, dirty little things that we have to do, like, having a poo, or having sex with somebody or whatever. He finds the whole thing distressing. So when he realizes that she has self-harmed, the only thing that stops him from being completely disgusted by it is the fact that he knows that it's his fault, because he has posted on social media that he has met her, that he's been dancing with her in this club. He has posted without asking her permission. And that has created this big problem in her life. And
it is a big problem, people just taking photos of you and sharing them without permission.
But in this country, it is not illegal. So if you take a photograph of somebody in a public place, they can share that photograph without your permission.
I find that so wrong.
So it's not the same in all countries. If it's in a private place and you take that photograph, then you can be prosecuted for it. Well, you can be prosecuted for it. But it's not illegal in this country to do it.
But Estella did get persecuted, so it wasn't really a slip of the tongue there, was it?
Well, yes, she gets persecuted, yeah.
I mean, the
definitely.
fact that and this is the thing that when I read that about her losing her job or being suspended.
No, she gets suspended. And the truth of the matter is that she probably wouldn't have been fired. She probably wouldn't have lost her job.
But the fact that she got suspended.
It was a knee-jerk reaction. But that is based on evidence from things that I'd investigated, and it was really more that her reaction to it, because she's this highly sensitive person. Sometimes the emotional wave is so big that her reaction is completely disproportionate.
It is, but again, for me, taking a step back and coming back out of it, because of the work that I do, and like I look at the social issues, you're looking at this from Estella's point of view of what she's going through. I'm looking at it from a cultural point of view, and I'm like, why should a teacher be suspended for going out? Okay, we don't know what they've seen, all of, and this
completely.
Is the thing, social media and the media have
that
twisted so much.
The thing is that you get suspended whilst they investigate, but the problem is that there's a stigma attached to being suspended. So even if she had been cleared and went back to work, how is she then supposed to work with 16 to 18-year-olds who have
this is
seen
what I'm getting
all of
at.
that on
They've
social
suspended
media?
her for going out and having a good time. Why should teachers be suspended for going out and having a good time when people know that social media and people twist things just for their own gratification or their own ego or wanting to? And I just find it, I like, really seriously, have people got nothing better to do with their time?
I think the real crime, though, is that she isn't able to go back to work because she will no longer
destroyed
have
her
the
life.
gravitas that she had before with the young people that she's working with. So, yeah.
So I'm going to play a song. I am, because otherwise I'm going to get really like wow. And this one is a bit more dawn. This is "Be Yourself" by More Cheaper, because I think we all need to be a little bit more kinder to ourselves, or a little bit kinder to ourselves, not more kinder.
And to each other as well.
Yeah, absolutely, to each other. But we actually have to come back to self. And so this is More Cheaper with "Be Yourself." Oh, I do love a bit of More Cheaper. And being yourself, as you've heard that I like to spend a lot of time by myself. And on page, again, we're going back to the book, because obviously this is the Literary Lounge with Dawn Bates on Radio Cardiff. And if you would like to text the show, please do so on +44 7354 770 837. Or if you're here in the UK, it's 07354 770 837. We would love to hear your messages and questions. You're all a bit quiet on the messages today, so come on, chip up. Okay, so on page 137, there's a bit there where Stella goes on to talk about losing herself. Would you like to read this next bit for us, please, Lara?
Is it the...
I spent years. Yeah.
I spent years learning to be alone. It was a slow process, and along the way I met people that I thought would be different. I fell in love with them and thought that they'd see me, love me, care for me. I made so many mistakes and then had to reinvent myself again. Finally, I learnt to behave respectably and get up and go to work every day and do a good job. I managed my distress at the constant flow of people's emotions and only allowed tears to fall the same amount that other people do in public, but otherwise kept them for home. When I couldn't be seen, I created a smiling, efficient and caring persona that I could use in my professional life so that nobody would have to deal with the real me. Reckless and spontaneous like a wildfire. I do genuinely care about other people and I want to help them, but I don't have boundaries like other people. And I do too much, say too much, and exhaust myself in the process. I lose myself.
How many, like, I read that paragraph and I was like, oh my goodness. Now, I've been coaching people since I think I did my first leadership and business coaching I think I was like 24, when I did that with Sheffield Hallam Business School. And then I did another coaching program with Innova Consultancy. It was about women's coaching in business. And reading that brought back all of these years of coaching, everybody that I've coached, and that word boundaries and being someone for other people, and how so many people, even the most successful people, some of them don't even have boundaries. They're putting on this facade, as we were discussing earlier with the makeup with the youngsters, and it continues through the 7-year-old, and all these different versions of Estella as she's going through. Why did you, the way you've summed so much up in that one paragraph, I thought was absolutely brilliant, because you just covered so much and made what other people are feeling, so you articulated it.
I think it's a really, really common thing that happens. It happens to parents, for example. Parents give so much to their children that they actually lose sight of who they are. And when those children then go off to university or they leave home for any reason,
they're bereft.
They have no idea who they are any longer. And one of the things that I experienced was that I had a very close relationship with my parents. And I cared for both of them in the lead up to their deaths. And after they died, I was suddenly, well, who am I? If I'm not a daughter anymore, if I'm not a carer anymore, who am I? And this is reflected in Estella's character, that she doesn't really know who she is. So in the iteration of herself at the beginning of this book, she refers to herself as Miss, because being a teacher is the thing that she manages to identify with. And it's taken me, my mum died 3 years ago, and it's taken me 2.5 years to start to really recognise myself again and have an idea of who I am. And writing Estella was part of that process of finding that. But I think the thing that I really like about this paragraph is also about learning to be on your own, because a lot of people never do learn to be on their own, don't want to learn to be on their own. And it's really interesting, the process of learning to be on your own is extraordinarily liberating.
Oh God, yeah.
So rather than feeling that you need to be with someone all the time, that that your life is not complete without having at least a close set of friends that you see on a regular basis. And for a lot of people, it's defined by having a partner that you are invested in and that you see most of the time. Actually, the liberation of just kind of going, do you know what? Actually, being on my own is fine.
Absolutely. And when I went travelling, when my whole life, after the events that happened to me, like with the Scotland saga and the sexual violence, when all of that happened, I remember being in the bath one night and on my knees, crying my eyes out, going, I can't do this anymore. I've got to go and figure all of this out. I've got to figure out why this has happened. And there's something on page 163 which Lara's written is, I told you, said Igor, he'll take all of your energy. You've got to protect yourself. And I realised that there was the person who was in my life during the Scotland saga and the events of what happened in Sheffield. He was that person who was taking all my... He wasn't just a red flag. He was a bunting of red flags. And I had to go off travelling. I had to go and figure it out because I couldn't be the mother I needed to be. But I also couldn't be Dawn. I didn't know who she was because I'd been at school. I'd been through all of that brought up for me and all the bullying, because I loved the books and the libraries and I was the bookworm and the one that asked the questions and all of that. And then I met my ex-husband, moved in with him. And so I'd never spent any time by myself.
But it's almost though that society doesn't think it's a great idea for us to spend time
didn't.
on our
The
own.
amount of hatred I got, Lara.
Yeah.
how dare you go off? How dare you leave your children with their dad? I'm like, I didn't leave them outside of Sainsbury's and go, crack on, lads. I left them with the man I chose to have children with. And he had just as much right to raise those children because they were his children. But the hatred I got, but I just switched off. I deleted all my social media profiles. I just went completely dark. And it was the best thing I ever did.
I find it really interesting because if you feel lonely, that's one thing. So, as working in pastoral care, if a student comes to me and sort of says, I'm lonely, I don't have any friends, I'm lonely, then that is the problem. But actually being okay in your own space, I have students who come to me and kind of go, well, I don't have that many friends. I have like maybe 2 friends, but then whilst I'm at college, I don't really need to hang out with anybody. I can just do my own thing. We're obviously all different and we all need something different, but I think it is important for all of us to feel comfortable in our own company.
Yeah. And
if you don't feel comfortable in your own company, then I think you need to look at why you don't feel comfortable in your own company.
Absolutely.
It's great having friends. I have lots of friends, but I do like to have a lot of time to myself as well. But then being a highly sensitive person, when I'm around people, it can be exhausting sometimes.
Oh God, so draining.
And if I meet a friend in a cafe, for example, it's sometimes quite difficult to focus entirely on the friend because I'm aware of what's going on around and what other people are feeling and what the person who's waiting on us is feeling. And, I get all of that. I get a bit of kind of like massive overload of other people's feelings and emotions. But I have to say that really from quite an early age, it was important for me to have every day some time just to myself.
Absolutely. Have that meeting with yourself.
Yeah. And process what's happening inside you and also what's happened in your day.
Yeah. Because this is the thing that I felt that Estella, going back to the novel, when all of that stuff on social media was happening, and there's an incident on page 198 where she's chatting with one of her great friends, and the discourse that was going on there. Now, when you are not quite sure who you are, or you're not quite sure what's happening in your life, like she's just been suspended, she's met these young people, her life is just like pivoted, and she's like, well, what's going on? But then she's got this friend, this one long-term friend, and I love this dialogue, absolutely love this dialogue. So Lara, could you read that for us?
So these are text messages that are going backwards and forwards, and the friend is called Win. FYI, old thing. Bloke came into shop asking questions about you. Think he might be a journalist? Obviously said I didn't know you. Just thought that you should know. Also, as you are still a technological troglodyte, you should be aware that you are all over Oscar's fans' feeds, in various places around London, including some weird pyramid thing. You really are a weirdo.
WTAF? I didn't even see anyone filming us in Limehouse. I know they caught us outside La Oscar.
Having a nice time with Anna at Treehouse?
Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Your hot property on TikTok, you freak.
What?
Dinner on Sunday?
Bleep off. You just called me a freak. 7:30?
Perf with surf.
And the thing I loved about that exchange is that they're telling each other to do one, but also calling each other a weirdo and troglodyte and things like that. And I just thought, oh my God, that if I've often said to some of my friends, if people could hear us chatting, we would probably be arrested knowing what's going on social media now, because you can't say anything on social media a lot of the time. You can, some of the things that get said, but then you see stuff that gets said.
I think probably anything that's going public, I get that, but between friends, and I am lucky enough to have a friend that Win is based on.
Yeah.
And we do have that kind of relationship, but there's a very, very thin line between banter and abuse.
Yes, there is.
We have a relationship that's lasted over 20 years, and therefore we know what our limits are. But if it's, you just got to be careful who you do it with, don't you?
Yeah, I would never want to lose my phone. People have access to some of the messages I have with my friends and with my boys. Oh my Lord. Anyway, we're going to go into the ads now for 10:30, and then we're going to go into another song, which I think is very appropriate for Estella. So here are the ads. Oh my days, I just love Dotan. If you haven't listened to their album, go and find them on Spotify. Dotan. Muy bueno, muy bueno. So yes. Okay, so I'm going to play one more song. We've only got 20 minutes left, and there's a couple of things I want to get through with Lara. I think we've done really well. We've covered a lot of things so far. Not all the legal tabs have been, but we've managed to, because I kind of been giving Lara, okay, we need to cover this, and it all kind of gets covered, so we're pretty good. We're on track now. When we were putting the book together, there were a few things that really jumped out at me, and there was on page 204. There was a bit that I did resonate with, and I did have a bit of a giggle, and it's where Estella's miss has started to do all the writing process. And those of us who are writers, will understand that this process. And would you like to do the honours with this? Because this is about what it is like, and there is another bit in a couple of pages after that, the end and the beginning, which I'll get Lara to read.
Did you say 204?
204, it's the very first paragraph. But when we were actually putting the book together, there are a couple of things that were really, really resonant, and we'll come on to those in a second. So now that Lara's got the page, she's poised, ready.
So Estella starts to think about how she can cash in on the fact that she is now quite famous, and she's always wanted to write a book, so she starts writing a book, and this is partly about the writing process. Waking at daybreak after her early night, Estella writes for almost 4 hours before it's time to get ready to meet Oscar. She's very close to finishing now, and the closer she gets, the more apprehensive she feels.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst writing at Florian, she's been inhabiting that world, and finishing the story means that, inevitably, she'll have to leave the world that she's created. She doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to say goodbye to the characters either. She's enjoying immersing herself in the streets of Venice, building the relationship between the protagonists and telling their backstories. She feels simultaneously the urge to complete and release the story to be enjoyed by others, and the desire to keep this world to herself for her own selfish escapism. She has to remind herself of Rosie and her desire to find out what happens next.
Oh, do you know, when I read that, I didn't just read it as a writer. I read it as a reader. And there's sometimes it's like, I want the whole world to know about this book, but no, I don't want anybody to know about this book, but I need everybody to know about this book. And for me, being a reader first and then a writer before being an author, I mean, there are lots of authors we know that don't read and didn't write the book that they're an author of. Go do the maths. Sorry, I had my North American head on there for a very if my sons are listening, they won't be listening, but they will have gone, oh, you said math. Yeah, we are still that childish. But this really resonated me, because sometimes after reading a book like Estella, I was like, well, she's got to write book 2 now. Like, when is book 2 coming? And it's like Amanda Denham, those of you who have read Amanda's book, Sin Eater, I'm like, Amanda's writing book 2, Sin Eater 2, and I'm like, yay! And I'm waiting for Naif to write book 4 of the Demok 2 series. And it's like, come on! And I'm waiting for Al to write book 3, and it's like, this is the problem with being the publisher. You get to read these manuscripts long before they're published. And so not only are you on this journey with them while they're writing, but then through the publishing, and then you have to wait, because they have to go through the publishing and the promotion and all of that jazz before they can actually then start writing book 2 or book 3 or the next. And you just have to wait, and I'm not very patient.
Well, you have to. You just have to wait. But also, this this story is complete.
Yeah.
That there is no reason to write a second book. I could write something more about Oscar, I guess.
Spin-off.
But
Ooh.
I have a lot to forgive him for before I move on to do that.
We're not going to go into
But
why she has to forgive him.
One of the reasons why I love reading is because of that escapism, and the ultimate escapism is writing your own story and escaping into it. And I suppose to a certain extent I identify with Estella. She's not me, but she has certain elements that are that are about my experience of life. I still miss her. And I miss...
Understandably so.
I miss Santi Faber. So Estella has a particular connection with Santi Faber, partly because she thinks that he's the most beautiful man in the world, but also partly because they just really, really get on. And, that excitement of meeting a new friend and meeting somebody that that you connect with, it's just really... I loved that part of writing the book and remembering what it's like when you meet somebody for the first time and you kind of go, oh, this is a person for me. I really like this person and I really want this person in my life. And I miss them. And I've literally just finished the first kind of full draft of my second novel. And I've totally fallen in love with the characters in that book, and I am missing them. I need to go in and do the edits now, but it's not the same as creating the story. Yeah. So I'm revisiting them, but
it's interesting you say that, because even though Crossing the Line was my memoir about my autobiography about what happened in Scotland, when I've revisited the book, I've re-met myself. Yeah. I've met that younger version of myself that fought against police Scotland.
It's like reading your diaries.
It is. And I met myself again, and I was reminded of the woman that had that fire, who had that power. And it has reignited my fire. And it's reignited parts of me that I'd completely forgotten were in me, because I've been so in the trauma of the sexual violence and recovering from that, and the court case of being put on trial for what happened. And when you get so bogged down and the system re-traumatizes you and creates more trauma, and you realize how broken the system is, but you have to navigate all of that you forget who you are. And that's one of the reasons why I feel that Estella, it really speaks to so many of us. And when I was looking at, okay, what are we going to talk about? It's not just about creating the characters in a work of fiction. It's about remembering your own character. It's about remembering who you are. And you said several times that you've put so much of yourself in this book because, you're the HSP, the self-harm, the teacher in you, and, the languages and all of these. And you just...
But I think that comes back to the whole idea that there are these 7 personalities that she's got.
Which is why I played 7 Layers.
Which is the 7 layers, obviously. And that's why I think we need to honour and continue to honour what has happened in our lives. Not live in the past, but celebrate and honour the things that have happened to us, and thank our past selves for doing things for us. So at the very beginning of the book, when I'm explaining about her 7 personalities, I talk about the fact that everybody has these. Everybody has different versions of themselves. But the vast majority of people are like those Russian dolls, where Matryoshka dolls, So and they're nicely nested. So there's the 7-year-old would be there in the centre, and then the 14-year-old would be there, and all you actually see is the lovely varnished outside of the current version of yourself. But in people like Estella, who are highly sensitive, and let's face it, not entirely in their right mind, it's more like an artichoke. Yeah. So all of the leaves are there. They're all present at once. They're all vying. Yeah. They all want to be there. And in certain situations, one of them will step forward and
some of them are tough. Some of them are tender.
And some exactly.
Sometimes you know how to cook it. Sometimes you haven't got a blooming clue.
And so there's actually a line that you highlighted earlier today where you said, Miss has a friend in London that Stell made in the 1980s. So, and when you first read it, you were like, what? Hang on a minute. Okay, so it's not Miss that made the friend, it was Stell that made the friend. And that makes a difference, because as we change, do our friends change with us?
Yes, they do.
And the really good ones, we find a way to be our new self with that person. And then in some cases it's not possible because we change so much that we're no longer compatible with people.
Absolutely.
That's what happens in relationships.
And this is something that, when we were putting the book together, we created some artwork where there was a woman's face on the front of the book, which you said was absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. But then you knew that it wasn't right for the book.
No, completely. So, but one of the things
too glossy.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is that nobody feels left out. Nobody feels excluded. So I know that from working with young people, but also from working with everybody and being highly sensitive to their moods, that if you see, for example, adverts where things are changing now, and I'm very glad of that, but adverts feature perfect people. And one of the reasons why I absolutely adore Heartstopper, for example, which is a series that has been made of a graphic novel by Alice Osman, the reason why I love that series on TV is that none of those people are perfect. All of the actors have come into it. They're not classically good looking, but they all have something, as everybody does. Everybody is beautiful in their unique way. And they've just made the final chapter of it. And they are human beings. They are real. Some of them are overweight. Some of them have slightly funny noses, whatever. But they're all beautiful in their own way. And what I felt with the cover was that I didn't want a cover with this beautiful, empowered looking woman on the front, because although Estella is beautiful and she is empowered by the end of the book, she is not at the beginning. And I didn't want anybody to pick up the book thinking it was about this perfect woman. So what I chose in the end for the front cover was the two hands, the hands holding one another, because there is a theme between Oscar and Estella, where she starts to hold his hand thinking that she is his mother, a representative of a mother figure for him, and then when she realizes that he actually has very different feelings about her, she withdraws her hand, and when they've got through all of their difficulties and they've come out the other side of it, they start to hold hands again. So and I think being able to hold hands with somebody is a really lovely thing. And if you feel that you can do that and you can have that intimate moment with a person, then it means that you've got a really good relationship with them.
Absolutely. So with some of my girlfriends, we link arms.
Yeah, that's nice.
And when you said about the hands, something in me rested. And I didn't expect that to happen.
Because we weren't sure what to do with it. And I think there was a certain sense of, but it's about a woman, so why isn't there a woman on the cover?
And the feedback we got was really great.
Yeah, and people going, oh yeah, that looks lovely. But I was concerned about what it represented about the book. And that's why in the end it was the hands that I focused on.
And one of the things that I loved is like all the dinkuses throughout the book. The dinkus, by the way, is the little icons that you see either between paragraphs at the top of the chapter. Most of the way through the book, we've got the artichoke. And then on page 278, when she's finally like pulled herself together and she's this, like the ending was just like, wow, it is an ending. Like you said, that this is a complete story. You've got the Matryoshka
It's not the
doll.
end. It's not the end of the story, but it is the process. The process comes to an end.
Does that mean there's going to be a book 2?
Stop. Stop.
Not angling at all here, ladies and gentlemen. Laura, please write book 2. Please. No, it was and is a joy to continue reading, and you know, it is available in paperback and hardback. We are still working on the audiobook. Oh my God, we still ACX. Like,
let's not go there.
We're not even going to go there because, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, audiobooks. Anyway, I'm going to play another song that actually Lara just mentioned, because the one that Stella fell in love with and that actually did inspire. Now, this one is the No Soy Hombre by Omar.
By Omar Rudberg, the amazing Omar Rudberg from Young Royals.
Yes. So we're going to play that, and then we're going to be right near the end of the show. But this is Soy un Hombre.
No Soy un Hombre.
Oh, sorry, No Soy Hombre. It messed it because it was the rolling thing up the bottom. No Soy un Hombre. And this is Omar. See, I'm saying it with an Arabic accent here, Omar.
Yeah, but he's actually Latin American.
Yeah.
So. Omar Rudberg.
Oh, the Arabians with the Latinos. Hello. There you go. Wow. You can just feel that. Oh.
Yeah. He's a lovely singer.
He really is. Now, how can people... We've spent 2 hours talking about Stella. How can people get hold of her?
So they can go to Dawn Bates International and they can order through there.
Dawnbates.com.
Dawnbates.com, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Dawnbates.com. They can order from Amazon.
They can.
It's
all online bookshops.
There is a Kindle version. So, yeah, just Lara Latcham, Estella, a novel.
Yeah, and you should be able to go into all of your favourite bookstores, whether that is an independent store, your library, or whether it is, you know, here in Britain, whether it is Waterstones, and they should be able to order it for you. Some of them actually have it in stock. We are still working on major distribution routes, but, you know, that's a long process. But we are getting there. We are in the final stages. But yes, dawnbates.com/readers, and you can go into Estella, or again, just go on to any of your favourite online stores and you should be able to get that very, very quickly. Now, tomorrow, one final plug for Crossing the Line. It goes live in paperback tomorrow, and the hardback version will be available in 2 days' time. So you'll need to go over to, again, I'm going to give you a short link that will be Genius with a dot between the I and the U. So https://geni.us, love a bit of Genius, /the Scotland Saga. Or again, you can go on to dawnbates.com and look for Crossing the Line there. And yeah, but thank you so very much for coming on the show today, Lara. It's been
an
a
absolute pleasure. It's always lovely to have a chat with you, darling.
Thank you. Oh, she's so nice. But I wish you all a fabulous weekend, and you'll have me again back in the